Alright, welcome to another video from the chart readers. So if you've been here before, this should look familiar. We are looking at a daily view of the NASDAQ. As always, we will start on the top with our moving averages and support and resistance lines, and then we will come back to our lower indicators shortly. So let's take a look at a rather interesting day on the NASDAQ. So I actually will go to the hourly shortly because though this looks like a pretty bad end of the day, it actually started really positive. I was surprised to see that, but then obviously the end kind of came where we thought yesterday, right? So let's take a review of what we saw. So on yesterday, we saw that we closed just under the 20, right? And really what I thought was there would be a little bit of what we've seen here, what we've seen here, and what we've essentially seen up here, right? Where I thought we would dance around a little bit more on this pretty important 20 moving average. Today really was a pretty steep dive down. So we lost the 20 fairly substantially. However, we did hold the 8. So again, with our moving averages, again, they're listed up here. The goal is always to be above them, right? So we have been above the 8 for 1, 2, 3, 4 trading days. Not too bad. Obviously, we really didn't do much on the 20 here. We technically were only up for 1 day, right? This is the only day we closed above it. So really at this point, it becomes a matter of can we hold this 8 and hopefully kind of climb back to this 20. So in my opinion, I didn't really look at the lower indicators yet. We'll take a look at those shortly, but it's pretty hard of a drop from yesterday, and we really lost all of this positive green candle. When I say we lost, that means we closed well below it. And did we? We pretty much closed at 50% of this candle. So 50% candle is something you'll occasionally hear me say. That's definitely something we do look at short term. So a pretty big day today. We'll see how that played into the rest of the indicators. Let's look at the hourly like I mentioned. So I'm going to zoom in pretty hard here. So you can see again the trading day, actually the first hour of the day was positive. So today's the 28th, excuse me. And it was a positive day, actually going pretty high up to, what is this? Almost 11.6, actually did pass 11.6, right? But then from there, you can see we lost a couple really important moving averages and just ended up losing all of them, right? So you can see the dynamic of all the moving averages on an hourly, how they all just kind of get hit and lost in one fell swoop, right? So let me zoom in a little bit more just to focus on the single day. So yeah, each of these represent an hour since we're on the hourly, right? So the day started positive. It actually got really high. Like I said, it got to 11.6, a little higher than 11.6. But once we lost 11.5, which has been a big number we've been talking about for a while, which was pretty much almost you can call it the 200 and the 20, a little mix of the both. But once we lost these two, it was just a clear day down. So interesting little start. And I got to zoom back out. Sorry for that. So let's see what our lower indicators say. So look at that. The MACD, though we had a pretty sharp drop just visually, the MACD didn't drop too much. So it actually still has a relatively flat, if not positive slope. But again, the red is still closing in. So green above red is always a positive sign. And then hopefully they're doing the same thing, the MACD and the RSI. So that is not happening here. It looks like the RSI has already lost, and you can see the red is clearly above the green, and the green has a negative slope. So we don't like when they have a different sign. They should be saying the same thing. So this inconsistency, just a little less than ideal, right? So overall, really, I think the morning's going to matter a lot, and let's just see what the exact numbers are. So give me a second. So if you look over on the right, you can see the 8 average is sitting at 11,139, 11,140. So look, if we lose 11.1, I think that's going to be a troubling sign. So we definitely want to stay above the 8 if we can. And then obviously we want to start climbing back up to this 20, right? So what would be a good number? 11.3 would be positive. Losing 11.1 would be really, really it'd be devastating. It actually would, right? So any momentum we thought of kind of keeping this bounce in the channel would start to go out, right? So just looking at the weekly real quick, again, we were optimistic that the week started off above the 8. Clearly, after today, it is down here. But again, it's still very early in the week, so a couple more days before this is a finished candle. So that was a quick look at the NASDAQ. Let's move over to the Dow Jones, the DJ30 on this view here. So really a lot of the same, okay, so a lot of the same sign, but there is a little bit extra on the Dow Jones, right? So again, we were fighting with the 20. Clearly at some point, we actually just destroyed the 20 and we were making our way up to this 50. However, at some point in the day, my guess is that second hour, just like it was on the NASDAQ, it dropped and closed hard. One of the things that the Dow has that the NASDAQ doesn't is actually essentially a third support line where the other one had 2. So it looked like we were starting to test this upper section, but it now looks like we might have lost it and are working back down to this 29.7. So really a lot of the same echoes from the NASDAQ, but let's look down here really quickly. Again, the MACD looks positive. It actually looks like it's continuing the slope up, and then let's see if the RSI is down. Again, like we saw with the NASDAQ, the RSI down, the MACD up. Nonetheless, pretty much the same comments, right? So let's look over. We need to stay above 36, so let's even call it 35. If we can hold 30,500 tomorrow, that'll at least keep us in a relatively good place. And then if possible, this 50% can't, this 31.1, hopefully 31.1 will be around the down number. And let's look at the hourly. Actually, why not? Just to, oh wow, yeah, look at that. Exact same thing, right? So the first hour of the day on the 28th, you can see clearly went up, actually tried to surpass the 200 moving average line. But once it failed, it quickly lost all the others and then ended below our support line like we saw in the daily, right? So very, very much echoing what we saw with the NASDAQ. And then lastly, let's take a look at the SP5. Again, pretty much the exact same thing on the daily. Looked like it wanted to beat the 20. It did not. It came down, and just like the NASDAQ, we actually do have 3 support lines, and this one didn't quite lose this one right here, but it is definitely kissing it. So let's maintain the 8 moving average, and let's try to climb back to the 20, right? That's basically what we're seeing across all 3. So not too shabby. It's always good when the markets say the same thing. Unfortunately, right now, they're not really saying the best of things, right? So more to come, obviously, but let's see what tomorrow does. And really, I think the start of the day should be pretty indicative of how the day ends. So a quick view. Hopefully you are paying attention to all this and are learning. Again, hopefully if you have any questions, let me know. But these are our moving averages. We are using the MACD and the RSI. And again, if you haven't already, check out the website, chartreaders.com. And at the very bottom, you can sign up for our emails. All we ask for is an email address and proof that you are not a robot. No name, credit card, or anything else like that. And generally, I add a little bit extra on those emails because after the video, a thought or two pops up. So thank you again for watching, and I do hope you're learning. Have a great one.